Well, hi everybody. I hope you're all doing well. I thought for this video I would read the second chapter of Wolf Brother and give you an idea of what happens to Torak after that significant loss of his father. So this is chapter 2. Torak crashed through alder thickets and sank to his knees in bogs. Birch trees whispered of his passing. Silently he begged them not to tell the bear. The wound in his arm burned, and with each breath his bruised ribs ached savagely, but he didn't dare stop. The forest was full of eyes. He pictured the bear coming after him, and he ran on. He startled a young boar grubbing up pig nuts and grunted a quick apology to ward off an attack. The boar gave an ill-tempered snort and let him pass. A wolverine snarled at him to stay away, and he snarled back as fiercely as he could, because wolverines only listen to threats. The wolverine decided he meant it and shot up a tree. To the east the sky was wolf grey. Thunder growled. In the stormy light the trees were a brilliant green. Rain in the mountains, thought Torak numbly. Watch out for flash floods. He forced himself to think of that, to push away the horror. It didn't work. He ran on. At last he had to stop for breath. He collapsed against an oak tree. As he raised his head to stare at the shifting green leaves, the tree murmured secrets to itself, shutting him out. For the first time in his life, he was truly alone. He didn't feel part of the forest anymore. He felt as if his world soul had snapped its link to all living things, tree and bird, hunter and prey, river and rock. Nothing in the whole world knew how he felt. Nothing wanted to know. The pain in his arm wrenched him back from his thoughts. From his medicine pouch he took his last scrap of birch bast and roughly bandaged the wound. Then he pushed himself off the tree trunk and looked around. He'd grown up in this part of the forest. Every slope, every glade was familiar. In the valley to the west was the Redwater, too shallow for canoes, but good fishing in spring when the salmon come up from the sea. To the east, all the way to the edge of the deep forest, lay the vast sunlit woods where the prey grow fat in autumn and berries and nuts are plentiful. To the south were the moors where the reindeer eat moss in winter. Far said, the best thing about this part of the forest was that so few people came here. Maybe the odd party of Willow Clan from the west by the sea, or Viper Clan up from the south, but they never stayed long. They simply passed through, hunting freely as everyone did in the forest, and unaware that Torak and Far hunted here too. Torak had never questioned that before. It was how he'd always lived, alone with Far, away from the clans. Now, though, he longed for people. He wanted to shout, to yell for help, but Far had warned him to stay away from them. Besides, shouting might draw the bear. The bear. Panic rose in his throat. He pushed it down. He took a deep breath and started to run again, more steadily this time, heading north. As he ran, he picked up signs of prey, elk tracks, or rock droppings, the sound of a forest horse moving through the bracken. The bear hadn't frightened them away. At least not yet. So had his father been wrong? Had his wits been wandering at the end? "Your Far's mad," the children had taunted Torak 5 summers ago when he and Far had journeyed to the seashore for the clan meet. It was Torak's first ever clan meet, and it had been a disaster. Far had never taken him again. "They say he swallowed the breath of a ghost," the children had sneered. "That's why he left his clan and lives on his own." Torak had been furious. He would have fought them all if his father hadn't come along and hauled him off. "Torak, ignore them," Far had laughed. "They don't know what they're saying." He'd been right, of course. But was he right about the bear? Up ahead the trees opened into a clearing. Torak stumbled into the sun and into a stench of rottenness. He lurched to a halt. The forest horses lay where the bear had tossed them, like broken playthings. No scavenger had dared feed on them, nor even the flies would touch them. They looked like no bear kill Torak had ever seen. When a normal bear feeds, it peels back the hide of its prey and takes the innards and hind parts, then caches the rest for later. Like any other hunter, it wastes nothing. But this bear had ripped no more than a single bite from each carcass. It hadn't killed for hunger. It had killed for fun. At Torak's feet lay a dead foal, its small hooves still crusted with river clay from its final drink. His gorge rose. What kind of creature slaughters an entire herd? What kind of creature kills for pleasure? He remembered the bear's eyes, glimpsed for one appalling heartbeat. He'd never seen such eyes. Beside them lay nothing but endless rage and a hatred of all living things, the hot, churning chaos of the other world. Of course his father was right. This wasn't a bear. It was a demon. It would kill and kill until the forest was dead. No one can fight this bear, his father had said. Did that mean the forest was doomed? And why did he, Torak, have to find the mountain of the world spirit? The mountain that no one had ever seen? His father's voice echoed in his mind, "Your guide will find you." How? When? Torak left the glade and plunged back into the shadows beneath the trees. Once again he began to run. He ran forever. He ran till he could no longer feel his legs, but at last he reached a long wooded slope and had to stop, doubled up, chest heaving. Suddenly he was ravenous. He fumbled for his food pouch and groaned in disgust. It was empty. Too late he remembered the neat bundles of dried deer meat, forgotten at the shelter. Torak, you fool, messing things up on your first day alone. Alone. It wasn't possible. How could Far be gone? Gone forever? Gradually he became aware of a faint mewing sound coming from the other side of a hill. There it was again. Some young animal crying for its mother. His heart leapt. Oh, thank the spirit. An easy kill. His belly tightened at the thought of fresh meat. He didn't care what it was. He was so hungry he could eat a bat. Torak dropped to the ground and crept through the birch trees to the top of the hill. He looked down into a narrow gully through which ran a small, swift river. He recognized it, the Fastwater. Further west, he and Far often camped in summer to gather lime bark for rope making. But this part looked unfamiliar. Then he realized why. Some time before, a flash flood had come roaring down from the mountains. The waters had since subsided, leaving a mess of wet undergrowth and grass-strewn saplings. They had also destroyed a wolf den on the other side of the gully. There below a big red boulder shaped like a sleeping auroch lay 2 drowned wolves like sodden fur cloaks. 3 dead cubs floated in a puddle. The 4th sat beside them, shivering. The wolf cub looked about 3 moons old. It was thin and wet and was complaining softly to itself in a low, continuous whimper. Torak flinched. Without warning, the sound had brought a startling vision to his mind. Black fur, warm darkness, rich, fatty milk. The mother licking him clean. The scratch of tiny claws and nudge of small cold noses, fluffy cubs clambering over him, the newest cub in the litter. The vision was as vivid as a lightning flash. What did it mean? His hand tightened on his father's knife. It doesn't matter what it means, he told himself. Visions won't keep you alive. If you don't eat that cub, you'll be too weak to hunt, and you're allowed to kill your clan creature to keep from starving. You know that. The cub raised its head and gave a bewildered yowl. Torak listened to it and understood. In some strange way that he couldn't begin to fathom, he recognized the high, wavering sounds. His mind knew their shapes. He remembered them. This isn't possible, he thought. He listened to the cub's yowls. He felt them drop into his mind. Why won't you play with me? The cub was asking its dead pack. What have I done now? On and on it went. As Torak listened, something awakened in him. His neck muscles tensed. Deep in his throat he felt a response beginning. He fought the urge. to put back his head and howl. What was happening? He didn't feel like Torak anymore. Not boy, not son, not member of the wolf clan, or not only those things. Some part of him was wolf. A breeze sprang up, chilling his skin. At the same moment, the wolf cub stopped yowling and jerked round to face him. Its eyes were unfocused, but its large ears were pricked and it was snuffing the air. It had smelt him. Torak looked down at that small anxious cub and hardened his heart. He drew his knife from his belt and started down the slope.